Well, I appreciate you, Coach Lee, for coming on the podcast. I remember we did this. How many years you've been here now?
This is my fifth year.
It means I've been out of college for a long time.
Oh, you're getting old.
Yeah, I know. That's what that means.
But it also means I'm getting old too.
Yeah.
So we're sharing in that.
And you're still here, so that's a good thing.
That's a really
But I remember
good
we did this, when you're year one with those guys, and just seeing how, or just hearing how, where they were mentally, and just like where the program was to like seeing where it is now. Obviously, congratulations.
Thanks,
You've done your thing. But speaking on that moment, 5 years later, like, did you, I think all successful people have to be, delusional when they have this vision that no one else sees. And I'm sure there was some, delusional moments in that time to choose Vandy. But seeing where it is now, like, is this, what you've imagined or what you envision?
I think it's the start of it, and that's what's cool about it is, like, I don't see this anywhere close to completion. I think this is the beginning of what this can become, and it's taken longer than I thought, but part of that's the delusion, which I think is an important part of the mindset of someone that has big vision. You have to be a little crazy. There's also a lot just about being naive too, and a lot of times that presents in kind of an overreaching belief in yourself. Like, I think one of the great lessons I learned here early on is I may be good enough to do this, but I cannot do it on my own. And so then it becomes, how do you bring the people on board that share in the belief and share in the vision for what this can be? Because it's the connection with all the parts that impact winning and the practice of belief that actually leads to the good stuff, But we've come a long way. And again, I'm energized by the fact that I really feel like we're still in the beginning stages. Like, it's like we just got above ground and now we're going to start really building out.
Mm-hmm. You talk about the delegating, being able to trust the people that you put in position. So much to this, so that I think, on offense, you do something very unique is, flipping and switching your linemen.
Mm-hmm.
Never seen that before.
Yeah.
Jameer actually pointed it out to me when we were watching the game, but just, being different, being unique. And I think that's something that, Vanderbilt just has to do in the SEC. Just talk about some of the coaching staff or the members that you've brought on, that you've really had to trust and lean on and delegate, different jobs to.
Yeah. So, and this is something I learned, honestly from Coach Kelly at Notre Dame. I felt like, I've worked for different leaders in my career. And what I valued most about my time at Notre Dame was I felt like I had autonomy. I had autonomy as a position coach. I had autonomy as a coordinator to set the course for success. Now, he would let me know if he thought it was messed up. That was typically on Saturdays. But on the whole, I was able to kind of, again, set the course. And that autonomy allowed me to bring my creative energy to it. I felt like there was so much I could have impact on. And it led to this search for me, where it was this constant search for how we improve our systems, how we grow our systems. And so as I got into this position, I wanted to give the staff members here the same autonomy, the same feeling of ownership. I wanted them to bring their creative energy. If everything goes through me, the program can only be as good as I am good. But if everyone brings their creative energy and helps me co-create here, the program amplifies. That's kind of like the philosophy behind the leadership style. And yet, if you look at that first staff, I made some real mistakes. And it's not mistakes because bad people. It's mistakes because I didn't have the vision wasn't to completion in my mind. What you think you need versus what you actually need are two different things, and you have to learn about what you need. And so this has been like a constant process of evolution. My evolution begets the staff's evolution, begets the program evolution. And so when you think about, we made a real pivot after 23 to get back on the rails of progress. And in that pivot, I took the defense over. I brought in Steve Gregory. I retained most of that staff because those are all guys that I've been connected with and I believe in. There's a trust there that is very meaningful to me. I go hire Tim Beck, and we reshaped the offensive staff. Within that, we hire Chris Klinakis, who is our offensive line coach. And you talk about switching the offensive line. I mean, here's a guy that coaches with deep conviction. And yeah, it doesn't matter what you do. If you believe in it and if it's designed for success, I think people will buy into it. Or not I think, I mean, I know they will. So much of what we do is, have we worked it through far enough in the workshop by the time we're presenting it to our players that we have such conviction that they can't help believe along with us. What he's done in that room is the story of this program's ascent. I mean, because you can't win in the SEC without winning at the line of scrimmage. And the evolution of our offensive line in the past 2 years has set a tone for us to play better at every position on offense. And it turns out Diego Pavia is one of the best players in the country when you can get him a run game that takes some pressure off of him, and then when you give him time and space in the pocket. Well, we've done that this year, and he has taken full advantage of it. So his work, Tim Beck's work offensively, and then the other person that would be worth bringing up is Robert Steiner, because I feel like that was a big part of that pivot from 23 to 24. And again, it's, we're a developmental program, and it's so important to me that when a player interacts with any area of our operation, they feel the same level of expertise. They feel the same level of belief, and they feel like their choices to engage actually allow them to take ground on their personal goals. There's nothing worse than when you have an underperforming area of your program that when players interact with it, it feels different, like there's a different agenda there, or you know how it is. Even as a defensive coach, if you feel like the defense isn't working, at some point you lose that energy, that spirit that defines that like competitive moment where you're laying it all on the line. And so we need that in the weight room year round. Robert Steiner has brought that attitude and approach. There's a deep belief in him as a strength coach. Ian Burris the same. A deep belief in those guys as scientists, but also, most importantly to me, like there's real human connection in that room. And I think that is where our suffering begins. That is where the culture of our team is formed. And I can't say enough about the value those guys have added to this to help us get to this point.
Mm-hmm. In the conversation with Eli, I brought up the LSU game, and then I feel like that energy carried over into the Auburn game. But for the LSU game, I mentioned that it seems like you throughout the course of the game you broke their will. And to play a program like LSU, maybe be on the other side. Like you would assume that they would be that. But I feel like throughout that game, you guys punished them, and it really started to show them break towards the end of the game. And then fast forward to Auburn, back and forth game, tight game, you're down. The team really had to, lean on each other and dig deep. And you talk about delegating and giving some of that leadership to the players. Guy like Eli, Diego, and some other players, I'm sure. But how much, or when did you know that, when Diego and when Eli and the other group of seniors, like 35 for this senior night, when those guys stepped into the room, that this was going to be a group that was going to be able to be a part of the program and help instill the vision that you've seen?
You pick up on some of that in the process of recruiting people and selecting people into the program. Obviously, we're super intentional about how we message in those moments, because I don't actually believe in recruiting. I think we reveal who we are, and typically that serves as like a filtration system. We don't hide from the hard work that has to be done. And I think in some ways the recruiting experience here is to challenge people and to see how they respond. I mean, so much of that is the typical recruiting method is so runs against what the actual experience is, because what defines, college football is pain and adversity. And ultimately what it's the men of action first and then men of response. And to hand leadership over, to hand kind of the keys to the team, you have to have trust built. Trust is all about, in my mind, consistency and response. It's not that we're perfect. No one's perfect. But when we make mistakes, we take ownership and we redirect. And so with older players, you can pick up on some of this in those interactions, because typically you're dealing with people that have learned how to speak for themselves, and there's just more that you can gain from those initial interactions. And then again, you observe the work. And one thing I ask of our transfers is they learn how to become a part of this program before they help move it forward. I think that's really important. Like, otherwise, I think you could end up with a program that looks like any version of wherever these guys come from, combined with Vanderbilt. And instead, we want to be very specific that we're unique. This is what Vanderbilt football is. This is what we ask of the people in our program, not just the players. Come understand it and then help us grow it. Those two guys are great examples. And I mean, we could go through every one of these. I mean, Corday Sidnor, Zaylen Wood. I mean, all these guys, Randon Fontenot, have taken that approach to becoming a part of this and then helping us grow it forward. But I learned how to trust players at Notre Dame. I never had understood what that meant until I became defensive coordinator. I realized that as important as it was to me, it was more important, or just as important, to the players. And as much as I work and as hard as I work in my role, the players work just as hard, if not harder. And so you realize then, when it comes to those games on Saturday, that you are not alone. And there's a beautiful sense of wholeness there, goodness, connection. That actually is like the most meaningful part of it to me. Is like we share in the suffering so we can share in the competitive experience, and in moments that seem fleeting so we can share in the joy of reaching the top of the mountain. And when I left Notre Dame, I came into an environment here that wasn't ready for trust. I mean, we did not know how to take pride in ourselves. We did not have to know how to care for ourselves. And that is very disorienting as a leader, because what I've learned in this environment, I actually can't now apply in this one. There's a whole nother level of deconstruction and reconstruction that has to happen. It's felt so good in these last 2 years to be able to step back in that embrace, step back in that trust of the team. And I'm so happy for these guys and the way they've taken it and run with it.
Trusting to the point where, we got 4th and 1 against Auburn, and you put it in the hands of, your best player. Talk through that moment, just because, obviously as a fan watching from home, I'm like, I go through all the scenarios too, but I'm obviously not in the moment. But in that moment, I'm thinking, if the defense has a chance to get back on the field, we kick the ball, go up, they'll still get back on the field. They got a longer field because you trusted them to go for it. That means, if they got on the field, you trusted them. But obviously, if you get the first down, they don't get the ball back, you win the game. That's my thoughts, but I also had time to think about it. I'm also down on the field, and the guy's better than me. But in that moment, what's going through your mind? I know before we talk, you say you kind of feel alone in that moment, but what's that moment like?
Yeah, which saying that, I think the lonely feeling becomes after you made the decision that doesn't work. You're like, man, because the loneliness is more like, I am responsible for that, and it didn't go the way we wanted it to go. I feel like I've let people down. The starting point for that, for me, is, what does the book recommend? Because I want to know, that book has calculated all kinds of odds that we can never have enough time to calculate. And in that moment, a 4th and 1 was a go. And all they're doing is gaming out win probabilities. So they're taking everything into account, both the probability of getting a first down, the probability of getting stopped, the probability of a return possession going for a touchdown if you kick the field goal, the probability of a return possession, getting a field goal if you get stopped, the probability of winning in overtime. And I mean, I go on and on.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot. And I'm not, hey, what does the book say? The book says it's a go. 4th and 1 in particular is an important one to me, because, again, go back to that trust and kind of the commitment I've made to our team is, we had a 4th and 1 earlier on that drive that we went for and converted. That's a go for us. The way the game was playing out, I felt like at 4th and 1 to put the ball in the hands of our offense and to say, go convert. Because once you convert in that situation, we feel like the game's over.
Yeah.
We're going to walk Brock out there at some point. We may run a couple plays. We may kneel it out, get down to 3, kick the field goal, and it's done. And so I wanted to give them the opportunity to do that, because I also felt like in the moment that was the best strategy. We had taken on water defensively, and sometimes one thing I've learned in this role is, you kick to take a lead. You introduce winning to the opponent when that lead is not 7 or more. Mm-hmm. And so we played a game in 21 where now it's a little different, but we kicked to go up 6. We were on the 10-yard line or 12-yard line. This was at South Carolina. We kicked to go up 6, and we defended a return possession and went for a touchdown, and South Carolina won the game. So how do I eliminate the return possession? How do I not introduce winning to the opponent? And the trust I had in my defense was, if we didn't get it, we're going to need to defend that 2-minute drive. I thought we did that effectively. And once it got to overtime, I felt really confident about us playing a game inside a 25-yard box, and so all's well that ends well, but
no, I think it also instills a confidence even in the entire team, because obviously I saw Diego saying like, let's go for it and things like that, but then if you don't get it, the defense is still fired up.
That's right.
That you still went for it, rather than we kicked a field goal and it's like, now you're a little timid, you know what I mean?
That's right.
Like you said, we can't give up, certain things. So that is a good point. Like internally, like you go out there to avenge the offense, and then hopefully get the ball back in overtime. So
that's right.
That's a good point.
It works out, and again, I mean, what I never want to be risk averse. I never want to play small in those situations, because I think that's how you get beat. And that doesn't mean we're reckless. And again, that's why I always start with, what does the book recommend? Not because I'm going to sit there and defend things. In fact, I don't think brought that up until this conversation, but
to me, it gives me the starting point of reasoning. And then from there, it's about the emotions of the moment and what I believe to be true about our team. And in that case, they lined up, and it was, we're gonna go in this game. We didn't. It took us a little longer to end it than I wanted to.
Obviously, you got I feel like this is a large group of seniors. Some that helped change this program and are going to leave it better than they found it. Touch on just, what senior night is going to mean, but then also knowing that, this group potentially has something to play for bigger than just, these last 2 games.
Well, you've played in these kind of games where you feel like everything's at stake. And I think as a player, as a coach, these are moments you dream about. These opportunities to have meaningful games in November. And, this is our final home game. So this is a chance to actually go out undefeated at home. First time since 1982 in doing that. That's really meaningful. And I think in a lot of ways, this team has redefined a lot about what the expectations of this program are. So you talk about finishing undefeated at home, and you carry that into Team 6 as an expectation. We don't lose at home. That's a powerful shift in attitude and mindset. None of this is possible without those senior players you mentioned. And there are guys that have been here since 21. Those guys have weathered more adversity than most humans will tolerate, My respect for them, I can't even begin to express, because they were early in on a vision, and they never let go of that vision. And even though the world told them to, they continued to show up and to invest and to sacrifice for what they believed in. And so now they're experiencing the fruits of that. There were guys that will be honored Saturday that showed up in 22. And same thing. I mean, they were a part of a near breakthrough in 22 and then just an absolute plummet in 23. But to honor their sacrifice, their commitment is important to us. And then there will be guys that have shown up in the last 2 years that, again, have left their imprint on our program in really meaningful ways. And so all of them, this program, there's a poem, and it's called Ulysses. I am a part of all that I have met. So this idea that this program is a part of everyone who's shown up and fought for it, who's shown up and believed in it, who's shown up and invested in it. And these culminating moments, the final home game, the senior night, are opportunities to play in a way that honors that. And I said to the team today, not result in a way that honors that, because I think that misses the mark. We want the result, fine, but what we actually want to do is play a way that honors the toughness, the commitment, the attitude, the spirit that these guys have brought to this program to help us find these breakthrough moments. And then the beautiful thing is that we are fighting for more. So everything's at stake. And so as we honor them, we also honor this idea that, we had a vision for more in this season, and we're going to go earn it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate you. I know it's, obviously this one, and then you got the next one, which is going to be even more fun, more stressful for you. So, but I appreciate you taking the time and, having a chat with me. Again, we did this 5 years ago. So to see it now, and we'll see where you are in 5 more years.
That's right.
I think a lot of people are anticipating where Coach Lee is and where he'll be. So, but for you, I know you'll be, where your heart is. And so I appreciate your time and you taking the time to do this.
Great to be with you.